Next, on Currents News, lifting spirits in troubled times. A Catholic leader is on a mission.
A Brooklyn diocesan priest is pedaling for his parish. I'm Jessica Easthope with why he's setting out on the 100-mile ride to inspire hope.
The Big Apple's top cop is warning there's no easy fix to gun violence, but he's upbeat about the future.
There's a lot of obstacles in front of us, but I think more importantly right now is what are we going to do about it? Because we all care too much about this city.
New details tonight about a young Catholic man gunned down inside his home. His mom is a federal judge. Desecrated again. For the second time in days, a statue of the Blessed Mary has been vandalized. Plus, rising up from the ashes, a cathedral is open again after being attacked by missiles. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. A Queens priest is putting himself to the test. He has big goals to spread hope and lift spirits during these uncertain times. And the way he plans to do that is unique. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Richmond Hill.
Father Christopher Henyu is in the saddle and pushing himself to the limit. Gearing up for a physical and spiritual challenge he couldn't shy away from. He's on a mission to uplift his parishioners at Holy Child Jesus.
The coronavirus has taken a lot of hope away from our parishioners, hope away from our nation, from our world. So by participating in this 100 miles, I just want to inspire others and to really inspire myself that we can do all things through Christ.
Next week, Father Henyu will be embarking on a century ride. For those not up to speed, that means he'll be biking 100 miles.
From here, Richmond Hill, Queens, out to East Hampton, Long Island. It was our intention to go to Montauk, to show like the end of the island, but that's about 150 something miles.
Throughout the pandemic, donations have kept Holy Child Jesus' food pantry up and running. The church has even been able to help some families out financially. Father Henyu is riding to keep that wheel in motion.
What a great feat that would be for our parish to continue doing the great work that we do.
Father Henyu took up cycling more seriously during the pandemic, but says he doesn't consider himself much of an athlete. That's partly why he's calling the ride 100 Miles of Hope.
We're going to need a lot of prayers. I'm going to need them certainly to get the 100 miles done. But I want to use this as an opportunity to inspire hope.
But he won't be setting out on his own. He's going with two friends. One is Paul Cerny, the head of parish operations at Holy Child Jesus.
We've been gearing up for this, and I think this time we're ready.
The men say they're not stopping short of their goal of helping families in need.
Raising funds for the parish, for outreach, for the community. It motivates you. Most of all, we put our trust in God that we find the strength.
The riders are planning to make the whole trip with only short stops for food to give them energy. It's expected to take close to 10 hours. In Richmond Hill, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
You can pitch in and support Father Henyu's ride at GoFundMe.com. Search for 100 Miles of Hope or text MILES to 718-550-6525. Your donations will help support the food pantry at the Holy Child Jesus Parish. We'll repeat this information at the end of the newscast. New York City's top cop is offering hope tonight that police and communities working together will break the grip gun violence is holding on the Big Apple. NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea is saying it won't happen overnight, but he's convinced it's going to turn around.
The people in New York City, the people of this department together care too much about this city. We'll be out there in Brooklyn tonight at a improvised town hall, socially distanced, working together. I can tell you that the men and women of this police department go onto my Twitter account all over New York City, taking guns off the street this weekend. They are out there. They're not going to go backwards. There's a lot of obstacles in front of us, but I think more importantly right now is what are we going to do about it? Because we all care too much about the city.
Shea is deploying more cops to hot spots around town. For the week ending Sunday, there were more than 6 shootings in the city, an increase of 220% from a year ago. Cops are leaving the Minneapolis Police Department in droves nearly 2 months after 4 of its officers were charged with the killing of George Floyd. The department is reeling. About 250 officers have applied to leave or have already quit. That's out of a force of some 850 officers. Veteran cops are blaming low morale for the departures. The police upheaval is happening as violent crime in Minneapolis is soaring. Since June 1st, the number of murders in the city are double from last year. The murder of a Catholic university student in New Jersey is being investigated by the FBI. The son of a federal judge was shot and killed in their home, and now their church community and neighbors are in mourning.
No, it's not as terrifying as it is very depressing.
Neighbors trying to come to grips with the death of Daniel Anderle, the 20-year-old Catholic university student, was gunned down at his New Jersey home Sunday when investigators say a man in a FedEx uniform opened fire. Daniel's mom, U.S. District Judge Esther Salas, was not wounded. His dad, defense attorney Mark Anderle, was badly injured.
Very depressing that very close friend is in the hospital, hopefully recovering. And a 20-year-old, the only child of 2 wonderful people, is dead. And that's what's depressing.
Daniel's childhood friend, Joe Morrow, spoke with CNN.
They're just a very good family, always there for you when you needed them. Always went to church and everything.
The family belonged to St. Augustine of Canterbury Parish in Kendall Park, New Jersey, and Daniel attended the parish school. His 2014 graduation picture was posted to the school's Facebook page, which is asking for prayers for the family of heaven's newest angel. Bishop James Cecchio of Metuchen, who posed for this 2018 photo with Daniel, is also asking Catholics to pray. And the campus chaplain at Catholic University offered Mass for Daniel and his family. The FBI believes the gunman was attorney Roy Denhollander, who was found dead Monday in New York State from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Denhollander was a self-described anti-feminist lawyer who sued the government over the Violence Against Women Act and filed unsuccessful lawsuits against bars offering ladies' nights. This is what he told ABC News in 2007.
I'm now trying to turn this tables of equality on the feminazis who have changed this country.
He also argued a case in front of Daniel's mom, Judge Salas, a challenge to the U.S. military's men-only draft. And on his website, he disparaged Judge Salas in racist and sexist terms. Investigators are also looking into whether Denhollander, who had cancer, is linked to the murder of an attorney at this California home earlier this month. The suspect there was also dressed in a FedEx uniform. Daniel was about to begin his junior year at Catholic University, where he was studying pre-law following in his parents' footsteps. His mom, Judge Salas, is the first Latina to serve as a federal judge in New Jersey. In Massachusetts, for the second time in less than 2 weeks, a statue of the Virgin Mary outside of a Dorchester church has been desecrated. A garbage can was dumped on the top of the statue at St. Teresa of Calcutta Parish. The same statue was targeted a couple weeks ago. And earlier this month, a statue of the Virgin Mary at nearby St. Peter's Parish was burned. The Boston Fire Department says someone set fire to the plastic flowers which were in the hands of the statue, causing the face and upper body of the statue to be burned. French investigators tonight are nearly certain a historic cathedral was deliberately set on fire. They haven't made an official declaration yet or arrested a suspect, but the blaze, being called a violent fire, started in 3 different places inside the Cathedral of St. Peter and St. Paul in the city of Nantes. Damage was severe, but the church's roof was saved. A Catholic cathedral is open again for worship after being bombarded by missiles. The Maronite Cathedral of St. Elijah's restoration is being called a sign of hope and rebirth. The rebuilding was financed by Aid to the Church in Need, a papal charity. The church, located in the city of Aleppo, was hit by missiles at least 3 times during the Syrian civil war. The executive president of Aid to the Church in Need International is thankful the cathedral is back.
When we see now the Cathedral of St. Elia, it's a miracle. It's fantastic that it shines in the old splendor, and I wish that it became again the center of the whole Christian community, as it was ages before until this dreadful war.
The cathedral restoration is being described as a message to the world that Christians are still in Aleppo, although the numbers are dwindling. The sister of American civil rights legend Congressman John Lewis speaking out days after his death.
John was a beautiful brother. I remember when he would come home from college and come home from something, he would always bring me something. He buy me dresses and things.
She was the youngest of 10, 14 years younger than her big brother, John Lewis. The congressman and freedom rider died Friday at the age of 80 after a battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Plans for his funeral are still being developed. The Black Lives Matter movement has spurred a change at the Associated Press, the news agency changing its usage rules to capitalize the word black when used in the context of race and culture. But the AP says it won't do the same for white, since white people don't have the experience of being discriminated against because of skin color. The New York chapter of Planned Parenthood is also making changes. It's removing the name of founder Margaret Sanger from its New York City clinic because of what it calls her harmful connection to the eugenics movement. The eugenics movement was meant to promote selective breeding and often targeted people of color and the disabled. There's a lot more news headed your way. Small businesses are struggling because of the pandemic, and now experts are predicting how many in the city won't survive. We'll tell you. Plus, the Sunshine State is now the pandemic state, and what the president is suggesting we do to stop the spread of the disease. And more than 100 years ago, our country faced another pandemic. We'll show you who emerged as heroes. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Thousands of small businesses in the Big Apple may never open their doors again, crushed to death by the COVID pandemic. Small businesses are a prime driver of job creation, and if they shut for good, the long-term economic impact could be huge. The Partnership for New York City is estimating a third of the city's 230,000 small businesses might not survive the virus crisis. Restaurant and retail jobs are most at risk. Florida is the new epicenter of the pandemic outbreak, and doctors there are comparing their battle to the likes of a major hurricane, and they fear they're losing the fight. Nadia Romero has the story.
We're in the eye of a hurricane right now. We need to treat this like a FEMA-level disaster response.
ICU bed capacity in Miami-Dade County has now surged past 130%. The max amount of beds available in the entire county, 394. There's been more than 500 ICU admissions as of Monday, and nearly 300 are on ventilators. The city of Miami is now going to fine people for not wearing a face mask in public.
We're immediately going to be fining people $50 for the first occurrence, $150 for the second, and $500 for the third.
And is weighing issuing a new stay-at-home order.
Something that's still on the table.
Across America, nearly 60,000 people are hospitalized with COVID infections. The CDC is now forecasting more than 157,000 Americans will be killed by the virus by August 8th. And now, as health officials and government leaders push for Americans to mask up.
It's our decisions, not our conditions, our decisions that will determine our fate and future as it relates to the spread of this virus.
President Trump is touting mask wearing, tweeting a photo of himself masked up, saying, quote, "Many people say that it is patriotic to wear face masks when you can't socially distance. There is nobody more patriotic than me, your favorite president." At the White House, Nadia Romero, Currents News.
There's some good news in the battle against COVID-19. Researchers at Mount Sinai Hospital found that more than 90% of patients with mild to moderate levels of the virus developed a, quote, robust antibody response while recovering from the disease. Those antibodies were successful in neutralizing the virus and could protect people from becoming reinfected. Scientists say the findings are significant because mild and asymptomatic cases make up the majority of infections. Antibody levels in recovered patients were also found to be stable for at least 3 months. Virus infections were too severe for at least 9 Catholic bishops. They've passed away from the disease. The prelates had served God's people in the United States, Italy, and elsewhere around the globe. They ranged in age from 57 to 91. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the coronavirus has claimed the lives of countless priests and religious throughout the world. All are in our prayers tonight. The influenza outbreak of 1918, also known as the Spanish flu, is considered one of the deadliest pandemics in history. Much like the coronavirus, it plunged the world into chaos. But just like today, heroes emerged. Currents News' Michelle Powers takes us back to a tragic time where the church and especially women of faith were called into action.
The Battle Royal.
It was an undetected killer sweeping the globe as the world was in the throes of a deadly war. A virus so relentless it infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed an estimated 50 million people.
Adjusted for population today would equal about 220 to 440 million people.
675,000 perished in the United States alone. Author John Barry has written extensively about the great influenza, calling its impact lethal.
The 1918 pandemic killed roughly 2/3 of the people in a matter of weeks. It also concentrated on otherwise healthy young adults. The peak age for death was 28.
With no vaccine or medicines to combat disease, the Spanish influenza, considered one of the worst pandemics in modern-day history, quickly overwhelmed the medical community. As infections soared, Catholic sisters from all over the country were called to serve in new and profound ways.
They saw terrible, terrible things.
Sister Margaret Donegan has researched the extraordinary efforts of 14 Sisters of Charity who traveled to the rural mining town of Shamokin, Pennsylvania, a tiny community placed under martial law and surrounded by state police because of the high levels of the contagion.
They were bringing comfort to the patients. They would hold their hands. They would talk to them. They would pray for them. They would listen to their stories.
Stories so heartbreaking, they wrote their Mother Superior to tell her.
They had seen things they could never write about, and they had seen things they could never possibly imagine.
Women of faith doing whatever was necessary to relieve the suffering.
They went into homes and they saw parents who had died and children huddled together. They listened to fathers saying they were the breadwinners, what was going to happen to their wife and to their children. They saw mothers pleading to God to cure them because of the children who were at home.
From mining communities in rural Pennsylvania to makeshift encampments in Ohio and Massachusetts, these women cared for the stricken in hospitals, tented clinics, even private homes, many with little or no medical experience.
Putting their lives on the line to care for not only the Catholics of Philadelphia, but any person of any faith.
In Philadelphia, one of the nation's hardest hit cities, over 2,000 women religious were called into action. At least 23 of them lost their lives in the fight. A sacrifice the Catholic Historical Society of Philadelphia wants us all to remember.
It's really remarkable how quickly they all came together, just the church as a whole, in organizing and having such a cohesive response to this pandemic. They were really focused on helping as many people as they could.
Philadelphia, they were actually, it was so bad, priests were driving horse-drawn carts down the street, calling upon people to bring out their dead. They were digging mass graves.
100 years later, their example still shines as a model of courage and sacrifice. Sisters putting the needs of others before themselves, remembered by a grateful community and by one of their own.
They were bringing the compassion of Jesus to these people because they were not nurses, but what could they do but bring the compassion of Jesus to the suffering?
Women of faith, forever on the front lines, answering the call in service to God and country. Michelle Powers, Currents News.
Dr. Anthony Fauci will throw out the first pitch at the season opener for the New York Yankees on Thursday. The country's top infectious disease expert was actually selected by the Yanks' opponent, the defending champion Washington Nationals. The game will be played at their ballpark. Dr. Fauci is a big fan of the club and once wore a Nationals face mask during a COVID briefing. The team calls him their super fan and a true champion for the country. Thursday's game kicks off a pandemic-shortened baseball season. Still to come on Currents News, your kids may not be going to summer camp, but the Pope is. We'll explain. Also ahead, a divine delivery, why one man believes an act of kindness was actually a message from God. A happy surprise for kids at summer camp early this morning. Pope Francis stopped by to say hello. The Holy Father was visiting the Vatican's summer camp and stopped by each table as the children, who range in age from 5 to 14, were eating their breakfast. He gave the campers some advice before saying goodbye: make new friends and have a good time. And finally tonight, an act of kindness that reveals the very best of human nature. The story is about an Amazon driver who dropped off a lot more than just a package. The man on the receiving end is calling it a message from God. Caroline Balchunas reports from Charleston, South Carolina.
Carlos Pagan and his wife Denise have this sign posted outside their home. Diagnosed with cancer in March, Carlos is currently undergoing chemotherapy. Nearly 2 weeks ago, they say their Amazon driver not only left a package, but read the sign and came back with flowers and a card signed Antonio.
It really touched me. For him, especially after he had delivered our package, to come back. So he went out of his way to go purchase the flowers and the card and bring it back to the house.
A week after leaving the flowers and card, they say he returned just to check in.
He wasn't delivering any packages to us on Sunday. He just wanted to make sure that whoever was undergoing the cancer treatment was okay.
The two met through the window, exchanged names, stories, and words of encouragement.
His eyes brightened up when he saw him, and that he told him, "I want you to know you're going to be okay and you're going to be walking soon."
Carlos learned his battle is personal.
I wanted to thank him, and I told him that it really meant a lot to me. And he said, I just wanted to do something because I lost my mother and my grandmother last year to cancer. And it really hit home with me. And it was just awesome. What he did was absolutely awesome.
Deeply spiritual, Carlos believes this was a message from God.
And he walked away from the window. I saw this ray of light come through the blinds of that window, like you won't believe.
Caroline Balchunas filing that story about a remarkable man and his remarkable act of kindness. And that is Currents News. Once again, to support Father Christopher Henyu's 100 Miles of Hope bike ride, you can do so at GoFundMe.com and search for 100 Miles of Hope, or text MILES to 718-550-6525. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.